So my background is in journalism, right? And I was writing for Business Week and Fast Company, and I was covering companies like AT&T and Disney and Nintendo and Groupon, mostly B2C companies, right? But some of it would be B2B, like Oakley selling to the military or AT&T selling into healthcare. But innovation was the focus. So when I decided to make a turn to PR, I sought out a few people with more experience than me and said, it seems to me there's this really big divide between B2B and B2C, and I'm not sure which way to go because I've kind of have experience, visiting both types of companies. And the speech that one gentleman gave me was, you want to be in B2B, it's where all the action is. And I'm like, what? Even this is like iPhones and PlayStations and sneakers and whatever. And he says B2B is where all the innovation is in terms of the levers of the economy, energy, manufacturing, and sustainability, and the list goes on, right? Like healthcare, communications. They're B2B is where the big things happen that move the entire economy, and particularly if you're interested in things like climate change, sustainability. This is going to be where these things happens first, right? Battery technology, green energy, that sort of thing. And that pretty much swung me into B2B. And I was like, okay, that sounds exciting. Also, he is like, you're going to be helping sell products that are tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, right? Instead of not to shortchange any other products, but stuff that might only be like a couple $100 or maybe like a computer or something like that. So that swung me to B2B. And so today I thought we'd talk a bit about B2B versus B2C, your impressions of doing PR for both of these sectors. So maybe you can tell us in your mind, just what do you think the fundamental difference is, like the basics, B2B versus B2C?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the fundamentals, but I think, to my mind, one of the most interesting things that you just touched on there was the high capital cost of a lot of B2B equipment, right? And that in and of itself often means that you're dealing with products that have a much longer life cycle. And actually, the number of touch points you get with the audience and the kind of length of time you get to present to them or encounter them means that you can tell much richer stories. And to my mind, I always think that makes it just a much more interesting segment to be in. I mean, we do often like touch on B2C work, or we have certain projects or products that have more of a B2C approach, and we have to sort of switch to a much faster pace because almost all B2C work is done at a much more rapid rate. But you find that it's personally, I find it just a bit more flash in the pan, right? I really like the fact that you can talk about features and benefits. You can talk about technology and how that impacts the application. Then you can talk about the customer support. You can talk about the longevity of products on in particular applications. And I just don't think you really get that with more sort of consumer work. I guess you maybe see it a little bit with some of the car brands and the auto brands, when they tell those really nice stories about their history. So you kind of see it a little bit with that. But then otherwise, I think a lot of that much deeper storytelling is kind of happening in the B2B segment, and we have that journalism background, right? And that's, what first attracted you, or one of the things that attracted you to SE10 11 years ago, was it 10 years ago, whenever it was, and it's still such an important part of what we do today, right?
Sure. I mean, as you said that, I did think about when you read public relations news sites, or blogs, or sort of industry rags, if you will. It seems like there's a lot of turnover with their clients, a lot of RFPs, a lot of those big B2C brands are moving their business all around or moving to projects, right? Like design a project and do an RFP because we have this big initiative or new product coming. Whereas my impression of B2B and our experience at an agency is you have really long-term clients because you're telling stories over years, if not decades, about what these companies do and about what their customers do and how they in turn grow their own companies using your clients' products.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we could almost do a separate podcast, right, on the that whole business of RFPs and putting proposals together, and how that sort of how you sort of structure your agency and your business to cope with that, and what you should, what kind of resources and input you should be putting to those on a regular basis. Because you're right, it is. I mean, it's such an everyday part of PR, really, for so many agencies, including us. But you're right. Yeah, I mean, we've been very fortunate that we've had some very long-term clients. 20 plus years. I mean, really since day one. The first couple of clients have been with us the whole way, and it's been really nice to grow with them and develop with them. From the earliest days of printing out and sending press releases with hard copy images in envelopes out to media, through to early email distributions just with the attachments, and then on through HTML and tracking, and into that whole digital transition and social media, and on into all those different elements of it. And yeah, I'm quite proud of the contributions we've made. It is a real, you become such an embedded part of the client, and you form such strong relationships with them. And it's a real thrill, when you see them succeed with a particular product line that you were working on behind the scenes and building up to, or if there's some particular high profile project that they've been involved with that's achieved either a lot of coverage or some really high profile coverage. And I still get a buzz out of that 20 years later, don't you?